Alright, so Keeping Up Appearances gave us so much more than I was expecting, like how Ida found the portal, another human living on the Isles at some point, and Creepy Luce in the human world. Like, I still have to make a video on King's dad, but sure, let's throw these into the mix too. Now, the Creepy Luce theory has been floating around since Enchanting Gromfright and the introduction of the letters. I made my own video on the topic, but I'll probably revise that theory soon and make a follow-up video. So in the meantime, how about we dive into who the other human was that Gwen mentioned towards the end of Keeping Up Appearances. Now, Through the Looking Glass Ruins airs this Saturday, and we know this episode will deal with Luce and Amity going into the Forbidden Stack section of the library to look for whatever was left there by this mysterious human. So honestly, we may end up finding out who this person was sooner rather than later. However, I like a little bit of suspense, so I hope we don't find out right away. But Luce and Amity will likely be looking for a book, diary, or tome left behind from this human. And I'm also guessing that this ghost-like entity from the trailer is a librarian of sorts in the Forbidden Stack section who may help or hinder Luce and Amity in their quest depending on the situation. In terms of who this human is though, I think there are a couple options. 1. He is a completely new character who has no connection to anyone who we have met in the show thus far. 2. He is the author of the Good Witch Azura books. 3. He is the author of the Unauthorized History of the Boiling Isles. And 4, and probably the most popular, it's Emperor Belos. So starting off, a completely new character. While maybe not as exciting as a character we have met or even been hinted at, this is definitely a possibility. Some other human at one point either intentionally or unintentionally found himself on the Boiling Isles. It seems through a leak caused by this Titan's blood that Gwen mentioned. And I am guessing that he documented his time in the demon realm, including his research on portals and world travel, that now being in the library. Him vanishing may have been him successfully getting back home. Maybe even the portal that he used to do so is the one that Ida found in the forest. With Ida's portal now with Belos though, Luce and Amity will need to find whatever this human left in the library to get Luce back home. So that's option 1. Now option 2, the author of the Good Witch Azura books. Azura was much more prominent in the first season of the show and has yet to really be mentioned at all this season. I feel Azura acted more as an inspiration for Luce to follow early on in the show, and also as a connecting point for her and Amity. But now Luce is far more confident in herself and her abilities, and hers and Amity's friendship has grown beyond just both of them liking Azura. However, the fact that these books are found in both realms along with the Azura movies, as we found out in Wing It Like Witches, there may be more significance. Now, Ida may have sold these books from her stand, but since she literally tried to burn Luce's book in the first episode since she thought it was garbage, that doesn't seem too likely. So maybe this human was on the Isles, wrote some Azura books during his time there, then once he got back to the human world, released them there as well. Alternatively, he could have released the books while he was still on Earth, and then released them on the Boiling Isles once he was there. It's one of the more out there theories, but it could still be fun to see the Azura books come back in a significant way. Now this brings us to our next option, also an author, the one who wrote the Unauthorized History of the Boiling Isles. It should also be mentioned though that the one who wrote the Azura books and the Unauthorized History book may not be mutually exclusive. We first saw the Unauthorized History of the Boiling Isles book in Young Blood Old Souls. The fact that the book also clearly has the written by section faded or scratched out makes me feel that this is intentional. Within the book, it chronicles the history of the Isles, specifically about the Titan and Belos. The Boiling Isles, named after the raging hot water of the boiling sea, are composed of the bones of a fallen Titan. Throughout the ages, other monumental bones have been sighted in the boiling seas, raising the possibility that many such creatures stalked the demon realm in eons past. But as yet, the Titan of the Boiling Isles remains the only complete skeleton known. Where did the Titans come from? How did they perish? I hope one day we can uncover these mysteries. So someone was documenting this history and also keeping it hidden away from Belos, as this is unauthorized. And I don't necessarily believe it's too big of a stretch to think that the one who is documenting the history of the Isles is the same person experimenting with portals and traveling to other worlds. Aside from the Titan, Belos is also mentioned. King says the following when reading the book.
A mysterious witch appeared who declared that he, and he alone, could speak to the island. He said that we were using magic all wrong. his teachings took hold, his strength grew, and he became Emperor Belos.
In addition to that piece of dialogue, there are also 2 passages written within. Before he ascended to the throne, Emperor Belos gained prominence as a crusader for unity during the Savage Ages. He believes that chaos comes from wild magic and seeks to bring peace by controlling such magic in his coven system. He rules by fear and an iron fist, and his past remains largely unknown. Nevertheless, the Savage Ages caused such devastation that many people have proved willing to follow him. Again, someone who is doing this much research into Belos and the Isles seems like someone who would also put research into world travel. So that's our third option. Speaking of Belos though, going off of the history and also what we learned from Wing It Like Witches, over 50 years ago, Belos implemented the Coven system. So Belos has been in power for roughly 50 years. His age is still a mystery to us, but I'm guessing that he was at least an adult when he started rising to power. So the youngest he could really be would be in his 70s, which is getting up there in age. Now, based on the fact that Gwen said that she heard the story of this human from her great-grandmother, that's a pretty big chunk of time. And Dana confirmed in her charity stream that witches age similar to humans, so we know that there isn't any crazy witch aging thing in play here. Considering that Lilith and Ida are both in their 40s, that would likely put Gwen at least in her 60s. So her great-grandmother is long gone. So the chances of anyone still being alive during that same time are slim to none, at least if they are aging naturally and not doing anything to change that. And that's assuming that this human was in fact alive during the time Gwen's great-grandmother was around, and it wasn't just some story or myth that she had heard. But based on Gwen's wording, it seems like it's the former. Now, if this human is Belos, that would make him very old, much older than any human. Like I said before, Gwen's great-grandmother is likely long gone, so anyone close to her age would be 2. However, in the charity stream that Dana did, when she answered the question about the life expectancy of witches, she also added this.
Witches and humans generally have kind of the same lifespan. There are some demons and witches on the Boiling Isles who find ways to live longer.
So we know it is possible to alter how one ages. This would explain why Belos could still be living. In terms of what he is using to do so, my first guess is the Palisman. Now, last week I actually made a video about the possibility of Belos being cursed, and the Palisman are a remedy to that, similar to how Ida's elixir works. But now with keeping Up A-Fear-Ances out, I am wondering if the Palisman are a way for him to live longer, and the supposed cursed form is a side effect of that. Or possibly whatever Belos did to slow down his aging gave him more of a beastly form, and the Palisman help him keep it under control. The other interesting thing about Belos being this mysterious human is that the human supposedly vanished. And we know from the history book that Belos mysteriously appeared out of nowhere with no one knowing his past and rose to power. So perhaps in this time he vanished, stayed off the radar, and adopted his new persona of Belos. If Belos' connections to the Titan are true, perhaps in this period of time when he vanished is when he first made contact with it. And whatever plan Belos and the Titan have, it requires a portal. After all, a human would be a pretty good option to try and get to the human realm, so it makes sense why the Titan would try to contact Belos. There is also the point that Luz seemingly made contact with the Titan in Adventures in the Elements when she listened to the island to discover glyphs. So is this a human thing and Belos had a similar experience? There is the other point that Belos doesn't perform magic through spell circles as we have seen other witches do, often relying on his mechanical-looking staff. So there are other aspects about Belos that could hint at him being human. One of the big things that gives me pause though is if the human is Belos and he had research or something in the library relating to portals, why doesn't he have that information with him? Considering there is an unauthorized history book, that implies that there is an authorized one. So Belos isn't the kind of guy to be open with others on this information. So to have something so important as portals and world travel just sitting in the library, that seems a bit out of character for him. And I doubt that whatever is potentially guarding the Forbidden Stack section is stronger or more powerful than Belos. I mean, let's be real, story and plot-wise, Luz and Amity are going to get whatever is in there. So maybe Belos isn't the human, but was made aware of his presence and research and has been making his own efforts to either find a portal or build one himself to carry out whatever the plan is for the Day of Unity. Now, to be totally honest, I wasn't 100% on board with the whole Belos is human theory, but after keeping up Up-A-Fear-Ances, I find it a lot more interesting at the very least. I still think there are some holes in the theory, but hey, that's with any theory really. If the human does end up being Belos, I don't think we'll find out next episode. Like I said before, it's nice to have some suspense, and I would want a big reveal like that to take its time. But even if it's not Belos, I can't wait to see what's in the Forbidden Stack section and what Luz and Amity find in there. The fact that Through the Looking Glass Ruins is going to have Portal lore, Gus as a focus along with the group of Glandis kids plus Mathalamule and Luz and Amity, then I am even more excited for this episode than before. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time guys, take care.